and one. Tampa, the Red Sox
Right.
won one, but Atlanta pulled it out. So good for Freddie. But we'll we'll see. We'll see. Uh, I don't always follow it real closely, but I am a Braves fan, of course, and Alan is a much more rabid fan than I am.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
bet was his idea. This was his idea, and he thought this is going to be an easy win. And
Oh
we,
yeah, the
you
best
know,
team in baseball.
right? We talked about what to bet, what the prize was going to be, and decided food sounded like a good idea to both of us. So, um,
Yeah.
uh, but I might have to, treat him to a little barbecue at some point, just because he's been so unhappy about
bring,
this.
bring him down the doggy bag.
Yeah, here it's a little cold now, but that's okay.
A little warm up. A
Yeah,
little warm up.
that is. But I would be really concerned about Atlanta versus the Red Sox. I think Atlanta would be the underdog there.
Yeah. They've
Atlanta's postseason has not always been all that impressive.
yeah. And the Red Sox have a very, I mean, the rivalry of the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Right.
Well, in September they always have. There are two games, two rounds. They play a September round in New York, and the last games of the season are always in Boston, and it's always a Yankee Red Sox game. And the Yankees, in although this year it wasn't the last game though. Come to think of it, um, but in fact, the Red Sox lost all three games to the Yankees in September, and so it now they had beat them in the spring three games once or twice. But this, August and September, they wasn't quite as good, and so I was a little wondering going into the playoff that one game that how are they going to Red Sox? They just lost three in a row to the Yankees. How are they going to win this one? And they did.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
You never know. Baseball,
yeah,
it's always starting over. I mean, every game is a new
yeah,
opportunity. It is.
yeah.
Well, I think we can get away from gambling. I think it's about time to start the program on time today.
I think so.
Welcome to the Rare Book Cafe, where the topics are priceless and the conversation is free. We're the only weekly internet program devoted entirely to rare collectible books and everything associated with them, and the people who love them, and that's you. And that's all of us, too. We can be found every Saturday at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, and 5:30 Greenwich Mean Time, if you happen to figure your time on that system, on Facebook, YouTube, and as a podcast, Rare Book Cafe Raw, on your favorite podcast platform. I'm your host, Lee Linn, from the Ridge Books in Calhoun, Georgia. And joining me today is our regular road warrior, Richard Mori. And we'll also have David Hess with his regular segment, Things Found in Old Books. I spent most of last weekend at a folk art show in Pennville, Georgia, Finsterfest. It's held at Howard Finster's Paradise Garden, which we've talked about before on the show, is a folk art environment, and it was a lot. The atmosphere was a lot like Richard and Barbelo reported on Allentown, the Allentown Book Show last week. People were enthusiastic. The crowds were good. People were buying, which was just super. Um, my son is one of the artists, and he had the best show ever. Even counting and this is his booth, but this is after two major paintings had sold. He did sell that head up in the upper left hand side. It is a tribute to Pete Nelson, who does the show on treehouse building on TV. And when he painted this, he sent a picture of it to Pete, and Pete sent him back an autographed copy of one of his books, which was kind of neat. But it sold um, soon after this picture was made, and two major pictures that he'd had for years sold. And he outdid himself even from a two-man show that was up for about 6 weeks at one point. So it was a really great weekend, and not just for him, but most of the artists were reporting high sales. One artist I know had paintings displayed on 3 sides of a tent. He sold so much that he had to go home Saturday night and bring back watercolor sketches to fill in space in his booth because he had sold so much. So I wandered around looking for items that showed the close relationship of art to books, and did several interviews. But first, we have just some still photos of the show. Okay, this is Kip Ramey's booth. Kip is a friend of ours. I have one of his paintings. He and my son are good friends. He had a very successful weekend. And the next photo is a painter named Eric Legge. I bought one of his. You can't really see them in this picture, but the ones straight ahead in the back have some mountain scenes, and I bought one of those mountain scenes. That was my treat for the weekend for me. And this is one of the paintings that my son sold of a dodo. It features 2 things that have been typical of his painting: a lot of tiny dots and layers. This has 2 old frames layered, and then pieces of wood cut out and layered on top of that. And that was one of the large pieces that he sold. This was the other large piece he sold, a tree house. And those are tiny people. You can't really tell too well, but pretty much everybody we know, all of our family and friends are in it. We had an opportunity to say, okay, I want to have on a red shirt or whatever. Their dogs at the time was in it. I think my cats are in it. It's a favorite of mine. It's a big painting, and I kept hoping maybe he'd just give it to me for Christmas or something, but I'm just as happy for him to have sold it. It was a nice sale. Okay, as wandering around looking for book things, this booth, which is Mountain Mama Farms, she has handmade seasonings and soaps and candles and things like that, and some crocheted and items. But she was decorating with these recipe books that are done by either extension services or producers of some kind of products, and so she had those out on display. But she also had, let's see the next slide. She had a sign that was up on kind of a podium, and it said that she had some church furniture for sale. I think pulpit and some chairs or some pews, and she had some hymnals stacked on top of it just for display. And we were looking at the hymnals. One was a Baptist hymnal that had a big note in there that says, "Do not remove this from the church." But this one, which was one of the little paperback hymnals, I picked it up, and we're just kind of thumbing through it, and to take David Hess's thunder away from him, found something in old books. It was a Valentine, and the book belonged to her grandmother, who passed away a couple of years ago, and the Valentine was to her from Stacy's aunt, who happened to have passed away last month. So it was really and she didn't know it was in there. And so it was really a special find for her. And we don't know if it was on a particular page. The page number was circled. And so we don't know if that page had some particular significance to her grandmother or not. But, it was an example of the things you find in old books. This is a booth that belongs to Charlie Dingler, and Charlie is one of the people that we're going to interview in just a few minutes. These are whirligigs. When the wind blows, the wings go around and the figures spin. And this is just some of Charlie's art. And I think we now, some more of Charlie's booth. I think we now do we have Charlie's video next? Okay. Charlie's daughter, Cassie, had written this book. And I saw it and went over and talked to him about it. And he's going to tell us about her book.
Okay. I'm still at Fensterfest, and right now I'm with Charlie Dingler. He's a great artist in his own right, and I'll show you some pictures later of his work. But right now we want to look at a book that was written by his daughter Cassie called Gigi and Joe. It's about two chimps in the Detroit Library. So Charlie, tell us about your daughter and about her work.
Well, Cassie's 19 years old, and she used to live within about 5 miles of the Detroit Zoo, and we had a membership, so whenever there was something, we wanted to do a family outing like a couple of times a month, we'd go to the zoo. So she kind of fell in love with the animals and everything going on, so she decided to write a story featuring two of the little chimps from the chimpanzee thing. They got out of their enclosure and they went all around the zoo, and so it gives you a little tour of the zoo and introduces you to the different animals. Now, she originally wrote the idea and the story when she was 13 years old, but she published it finally this year, and she's 19 now. But this gives a little bit of information about her.
Okay.
But she wrote it, and she did all the art illustrations in it and everything. So.
Well, show us a few pages so we can see some of her art.
Okay.
Well, I know she did the art on the cover.
Yeah, she did the cover art for sure.
Oh, aren't they cute?
And what she did, as you go through it, it has the pages, but there's several different characters. But most of them are animals, and that was a little kangaroo that got out of his box and was going running around, and so they do that, and then the little characters, the two little monkeys, Gigi and Joe, they come up on the carousel, which is a famous carousel inside the Detroit Zoo. Everybody goes there and rides it. So they were doing that, and they ran into, this was the necktie. He's a Canadian geese. Actually, it's based on a real geese who got his neck caught in a piece of pipe, and so as he grew up, it was too dangerous to take the pipe off, but they named him Necktie. But he's a Canadian geese, and he's from Quebec, so he speaks French. So,
of course he does.
Yeah. So it gives you definitions of the French as they're having conversations with him. And so there's his family right there.
Oh.
See, and they're having some. One of the lizards is playing a little banjo or cigar box guitar. And there's a little girl there looking at one of the little ducks. She has humans interacting. There's all kinds of things that she does with the story, and eventually it all winds up towards the end. And then, as you towards the end, it has a glossary and different kinds of things that you can to teach a little bit about the language and the terms.
Oh,
see, there they are.
Really
Just
good.
the words
yes.
you may not know but should.
Yes.
So it gives you all that kind of the different types of. Also, my daughter's the kind of daughter that would read the dictionary, so this that's for entertainment.
Well,
So
okay.
this is certainly up her alley. But anyway,
Well,
but that's kind of gives you an overview of the book.
Reading to my grandchildren or having them read to me, there are long words that they don't recognize, and this is a good. That's very helpful to have that. That is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. The book can be found on Amazon, and it is a delightful addition to your children's library. And and if your child is really reading, then it's not that difficult to read, but it may be also something you could just read to them. But I'm delighted to have found it, and it was really good talking to you. Thank you so much, Charlie.
Well, thank you for checking and enjoying Cassie's book.
Thank you, Charlie. Our next interview is with a lady from Savannah who does watercolor and ink sketches, but she also does something related to books, and it's something that we took some home with. So let's see, we have the interview with Tamara Garvey.
Today I'm at Finsterfest in Pennville, Georgia, and I'm with Tamara Garvey, who is an artist, and she's going to show us some of her work, but I also want to show her relationship to books.
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm up here from Savannah, Georgia. I work in pen and ink, and it's that old-fashioned pen that you dip into the ink jar, so it's pretty literary just by that. This is one of my pieces. It's a year in the forest, so it's spring, summer, fall, winter. And if you want to come and zoom in, I do a lot of my prints. I'll kind of slice up into little pieces to do bookmarks, so you can get a little hint of art, and then you get a bunch of cute bookmarks with some details, some nature. Here's a piece of the Mercer House from Savannah.
I love the bookmarks. I got some yesterday, and my granddaughter and grandson and I divided them up last night.
Oh,
so they got
sweet.
the ones that they wanted. But I take it you have a website?
I do. My website
Okay.
is, it's my full name. It's tamaragarvey.com. If you kind
Okay.
of zoom in, you see it. But
I
yeah,
see it.
a lot of my art with the pen, you get these really tiny details. So a lot of my art has handwriting in it. So I feel like my art is just for people who like to read in general.
Well, that's
so
good.
Bookmarks seems like a good.
That
I'll
does.
show you.
That's
Yeah.
a good relationship with books.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks.
And our final interview is with a curator from the High Museum of Art in Atlanta.
Hi, I'm still at Finsterfest, and I have with me from the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, Catherine Gentleson. She is curator of the new folk art exhibit there called Gate Crashers. And I'm going to let Catherine tell us a little bit about it and show us the catalog to the show, and hope that a lot of you will be able to make it to Atlanta and see the show.
Great, yeah. I'm thrilled to have this, both a book and an exhibition that are about the first generation of self-taught artists who really made their mark on the art world in America. So I was interested to learn that self-taught artists like Howard Finster, who we're here celebrating today, have actually been a part of American art for more than 100 years. And so this book is really about that kind of first moment in time when self-taught artists, started proving that they were great artists too, and that they actually had something really unique to contribute to American art. So that's what this book is about. And I hope you'll come see the show, which introduces people to, I think, dozens of artists that they've never heard of. And it's going to be, a great experience for you in Atlanta. It closes December 11th.
And the book is probably available on the High Museum site?
It is on the High Museum Bookshop's website,
Okay.
and it's published by University of California.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Catherine. We'll all look forward to going and see the exhibit.
Awesome. Thank you.
It was a really fun weekend, and the relationship between art and literature is so close anyway. We've had so many book artists on the show. People illustrate books, people design covers, and it was fun to see in this folk art environment some of the connections there. So it was a really fun weekend. I enjoyed it a great deal, and brought home some interesting things. So Richard, are you still with us?
I am here.
Good.
So
Good. What's been going on with you this week? You didn't have a show this weekend, did you?
no, I went and played this weekend.
Ah,
The
good for
Freiburg
you.
Fair, which is a big agricultural fair. We went to that on Saturday, had a fantastic time, and the crowds were incredible, which I expected they were going to be. So, but that was fun. But
Well,
I did do a little book buying. We didn't discuss this, but I thought it would be interesting. When I had a bookstore, people would come into my store all the time and say to me, well, I don't really collect books. And I'm sure you've heard this before. And, I say, well, how many books you have? Oh, I got 500 or I got 1,000. I said, you collect books.
yeah, that's a collection.
But that's a collection.
Yeah.
Whether you want to define it as that, it's still a collection. But one of the things that I think is interesting about books is, you and I are very much oriented to the collectible market, but there are lots of books out there that I think are fascinating, and I still have a buying habit based upon my being a general line bookstore. So I kind of watch for things that I think are going to be valuable, not expensive. I'm not going to make lots of money on them, but I think they're worth picking up because people find them interesting. So I got a quick pile. I would just thought I'd run right through them,
Right.
and then we can get to the meat. So this is a book called The Handbook of Bach Flower Remedies. It's published in England, and it's basically we have a lot of granola people, what I call granola crowd here in New England, and they are very health conscious. And so I always look for things that are interesting. I'd never seen this before. It's not a valuable book. There are lots of them online. I think I put $15 on it. But in fact, it's I think one of those earlier pieces. It's published, I think, in 1977, originally published in 71. So in fact, it's an early piece on healthy living. So I always like to put those kinds of things in people's hands. This is one of my favorite subject areas. This is called Voices of the Winds. It's a book on Native American legends. It's a reprint, but it's one of those books I think is worth picking up. Again, not an expensive book, but there are people who are really focusing on the Native American story now, and I like to put those things in their hand. And this is one of my all-time favorites. I sell a lot of golden books, and this is kind of a funny takeoff on golden books. Um, and people love it. But there's well, let me find a quick page here. Oh, here we are. This will be good. So this is from the book illustrated by Wiseguard, written by Catherine Jackson. Is from the book Pantaloon, and she says try a new look. Now that it's a takeoff on the original art, but it's one of those fun things that, or the other one right beside it, express yourself, and that image is from the book of Daddies, um, written by Janet Frank, illustrated by Tibor Gregley. And so it's a fun little piece. People buy it for the pleasure of it. This is one of the homeschoolers are always looking for an interesting book. This is a book on the elements, and it's beautifully illustrated inside. Huge pages of color. Well, let's see. I always working on this camera backwards. I never look. So beautiful color. Every single page is like that, and every element is listed, and it gives you background information. You can't go wrong with the homeschoolers on that one. And everyone's heard of the fake book, which is a music book where you basically can play a song by faking the chords, by just playing chords and not having to learn the notes. Well, here is the real book versus the fake book, and it it has the music in the books, and it gives you the notes as well as the chords. So, and this is a constant favorite of mine, and I like to buy it when I can find it complete because usually the CDs are missing. And what the words that shook the world, and you hear on the CD the actual speeches given by those who wrote them and delivered them. And I just think that's a great piece of history. It's there are audio files, and then you get the story and background behind it.
Right.
So those are not expensive books, but those are the kinds of things I think people are looking for, and we should be conscious to those kinds of things. We don't make money on them. That's not the purpose of it. It's recycling the books and putting them back where they're going to be appreciated.
Right. Well,
so that's just a little quick aside.
Yeah, 3 of the books that I shipped this morning were in that category. One was on African dance, and one was on maps, and the other was just a copy of Sharon McCrumb's Songcatcher. Just a novel, an inexpensive novel.
Yeah.
But they were 2 of them were books that were not likely to be found just like at a library book sale. The map book and the African dance book were kind of unusual, and they weren't expensive. But that's that type of interesting book that you need to get into the hands of people who would like to read them. So I agree. And of course, what you also demonstrated, Richard, was that you can't go anywhere without being exposed to books and without coming home with something.
No, I mean, it's a habit. To the person who says they're not a collector, if you've got more than 12 books and you're buying more, guess what? You're a
Yeah,
collector.
you're a collector. You're a collector, unfortunately, yeah. Um, we've got some things coming up in St. Petersburg. Um, of course, there's going to be the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair in April, and that we're
Yes.
both going to be at. And we will be featuring Sarah Smith in charge of that fair on the show later today. Alan is interviewing her at the Lighthouse Books in Dade City, Florida, and we are looking forward to that. Those of us here in the South who haven't been getting out to shows yet are really looking forward to that event. But we're also looking forward to the possibility of doing something else in St. Petersburg.
Well, exactly. And I've been talking to a few friends I know in the book trade. I've been doing book when I go to Florida every winter. I do a series of antique shows to kind of while away my time and keep the income flowing in, and also it's an opportunity to buy. So I've been working with Steve and Judy Allman over the years to do a show in Venice. They also do one in St. Pete. They're also going to be doing, they started a new one just before the pandemic in Sarasota. So I'll be doing that this year. And St. Petersburg has got this beautiful, and it's going to be in the Coliseum. Show that takes place in January. They fill the Coliseum up with antique dealers. I've been sort of a lone bookseller there for years. And so Steve asked me if I could find some friends, and because the first thing I said, "No, do I have any?" But after I got past that, so.
Well, there's several of us on this show who are your friends. So.
Yes, I guess that's true. So, in fact, I've talked to a few people I know, and I think we're going to have what we're going to call a little book row at the antique show. There'll be about 5 dealers. I think you're going to be one of them, and a couple others from Florida. And I think we're going to actually even have some dealers from Atlanta. So Georgia's going to be well represented in this event.
Good.
And so it will be, it's the third weekend. I don't have the date right in front of me. I should have it here. Actually, I do have it right here. I got the show card even. So there's the show card. It's and the date is January 21, 22, and 23. So we're going to look forward to that. And it's going to kind of be a preview of what I think is going to be a great show in April, and I know that we're going to be promoting that show at the same time, so that we can get a little piggybacking on that, and going to have some fun.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. You had talked about you'd already started your box of stuff to go to Florida, and I have a smaller scale. But yesterday I certainly added to what's going in my box for some shows coming up, thanks to you.
Well, yeah.
So I'm looking forward to my box of Georgia books that's going to be on its way soon, and that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun to have some new stuff. So we're going to have an interview with Sarah Smith, thanks to our producer, Alan Smith, going up to Dade City, where the Lighthouse Books is currently located after moving from St. Petersburg. And Sarah is going to start promoting the Florida show. So we'll hear from her very shortly. And go ahead.
And at the show in April, I hope we actually get to meet her new addition to the family.
Yes, indeed. We are looking forward to that, but we're also looking forward to having Grace and Quentin back, because they have been a highlight of the Florida show for some time now.
Well, I think we all remember their growing up.
Yes, we do, and they make the rounds of the booths, and it's really a family affair with those folks. So we'll look forward to that. So I think we're going now to Alan's interview with Sarah.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, I'm here at Lighthouse Books in Dade City, Florida, and I am here with Sarah Smith, the manager of the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, and we're going to chat for a few minutes while she holds her brand new baby Guinevere, yes, Guinevere. And she is just a cutie, as you might expect, but she is just darling. Anyway, I'm here we're to talk about the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, which is coming up. And it's still a few months away, but I know a lot of people who are already excited about it.
Thank you so much, Alan. I'm so glad that you all could join us today while we talk about the 2022 Florida Antiquarian Book Fair. It's scheduled for April 1st through the 3rd, 2022. It'll be our first time meeting in person since 2019, and we're just really looking forward to it. We hope you all can join us, and I'm glad to tell you all about it.
Well, one of the things that I know people are excited about, and understandably a little bit apprehensive, but there have been some book fairs already, some live in-person book fairs around the country. And I know that the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, in an abundance of caution, has been on hiatus for 2 years now. So I know that there are a lot of dealers and a lot of bibliophiles who are just excited to be anticipating the real live Florida Antiquarian Book Fair.
We are definitely excited to see everyone. We here at Lighthouse Books are excited to see the other dealers. We love and miss you all, and we're so happy to be able to see you in person. And we miss our patrons too. We have patrons who come from all over the country for this exciting event. So we're looking forward to seeing everyone.
So I know a little earlier, Richard and Lee were talking about the book fair, and of course they are longtime exhibitors at the book fair, and they were talking about your offspring who have kind of grown up with the book fair.
Yes.
And so there's going to be an addition to the offspring at the book fair, and this is Guinevere.
This is little
and
Guinevere.
She is just beautiful. She is incredible. What is she reading now?
Right now, we're using black and white picture books that are meant for small children. I'm very excited about this year's theme, which is the Children's Hour. We'd love to just celebrate that special time with parents and grandparents and loved ones reading with children, and just the joy that brings to everyone involved.
People do still read with their children, don't they?
Absolutely.
And you as
an integral part of most children's bedtimes.
and now I know, Grace, we have pictures earlier that I think are published on your Facebook page of Grace reading a mystery, wasn't she?
Yeah, Grace is very excited about Nancy Drew, and all the children love to read. She loves to be read aloud to, and Granddaddy Slicker has been reading Nancy Drew to her for several years now, so they're her favorites, as they were mine.
So can we expect that the youngest bookseller will be back with, now he's a little older, but that Quentin will be back with a booth? Do we know about if that'll happen?
Well, he has assured me that he is planning to be. So my son Quentin, with whom I was pregnant when I agreed to do the first Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, is now 13 years old.
Oh my gosh.
He is very excited to sell books to everyone.
And he's knowledgeable too.
Well, he's grown up in the bookstore.
I've seen him in action. I've seen him in action knowing exactly what the book was, knowing exactly who wrote it and so forth, but also knowing what it was about and its provenance, if you will.
Well, we're certainly excited to welcome new dealers into the fold. Selling books to people brings us an incredible joy, and we love the people that we've met in the field, and I can't imagine a better profession for my son.
Well, good.
We're passionate about books around here.
So what can we expect, and what can book lovers expect at the 2022? And I think it's the 39th. My gosh, 40 years, almost 40 years that this book fair has been in existence. What can we expect at the 2022 Florida Antiquarian Book Fair?
Well, what you can expect is to find book dealers who specialize in a variety of interests gathered under one roof, and excited to meet in person with people to tell them about the special things that they've brought. So we'll have dealers who come from all over the country, and patrons as well from all over the country. They'll gather in place. We have customers who specialize in history, religion, old books, modern first editions, children's books, every subject you can imagine.
Now you of course, the theme is the Children's Hour, and with a special emphasis on children's books, but you just enumerated a number of other subjects. So it's fair to expect that there are just going to be books on every imaginable subject.
Yeah, so these are there are books on all different subjects, and for a book to be considered antiquarian, it's considered to be historically or culturally significant. So many times it's the first time that an idea appeared in print, but it's also modern fiction that really tells us about a particular era. It's also a book about Florida's history. So there are a number of books of a variety of ages that you'll find in really every conceivable subject.
What should somebody who's coming to the book fair, who claims, we had a discussion about this earlier in the show, who claims that they are not a bookseller or not a book collector, that they are, and Richard, I think, had an interesting definition there. He said, if you've got over 12 books and you're buying some more, you're a book collector. And I think that people who are, sometimes people are reluctant to identify themselves as a book collector, but we know that lots and lots of book lovers come to the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, and they may not necessarily have the resources to buy the really high-end, really expensive, really rare books. Are they going to find something at the book fair?
For sure. You bring up a really valuable point, Alan, that it's the love of the book that makes us collectors, I think. The fact that we value what books have to offer and what they represent to us as part of our collective history. Books are incredibly important. And so anyone who loves them and values them is in fact a book collector, I would argue. So I think you'll find something that will be of interest, no matter where you're coming from or what kinds of things you like to look at.
What's the most unusual book or book-related item you've ever seen at the book fair in all these years that you've been managing the book fair?
That is a really good question, but we've had so many that it's difficult for me to remember a particular item. A lot of the book fair for me is working hard to make sure that the experience is enjoyable to all of you who are coming to visit the book fair. And so I do a lot of running around, and sometimes I don't get to browse in all of the dealers' shops. One thing that I love about this show is that the dealers are wonderful people. These are people who love books, who have been in the business for many times for decades, and they've watched me grow, and I love connecting with them. And I can tell you that the conversations with those people are some of my most interesting finds. I love just conversing with the dealers and the patrons. They are just such an incredible group of people and have so much to offer in the way of intelligence and insight. I think that's my favorite thing.
I remember years ago, I think it's been a lot of years ago now, that Mike had it wasn't a book, but it was a book-related item, certainly. It was I think it was Marjorie Keenan Rawlings' rifle.
Yes, so that I remember that well. That was a rifle that had been gifted to her from her publisher. And it was a really unique item that was book-related. And again, I guess that's just the kind of thing that you can expect to find, the unexpected, that relates back to the books that we so much adore in this place.
Now, you mentioned making the book fair an enjoyable experience and also a comfortable experience and so forth. And the location for it is the same location it's been for many, many years.
Yeah.
The Coliseum in downtown St. Petersburg, is that right? And what that has always struck me as an excellent venue because it has such history to it.
This building is incredible. It was built for the big bands of the 1920s. It has a wooden floor that is just gorgeous. The entire building it's huge with high, lofty ceilings. It's incredibly well ventilated. It was built for Florida, so it was built to allow the breezes in. I can only imagine a challenge to keep a building of that scale running well, but the city of St. Petersburg has done an incredible job of preserving it, and it is just gorgeous. The woodwork is beautiful, and it seems like the ceiling is miles away. It's just a remarkable building.
It's an arched ceiling, isn't it? That
yes,
is just
a high arched ceiling,
beautifully done, and has and they've done it well with the lighting that's there. It's
incredibly well lit.
That just makes it a very pleasant place to browse books.
I can't imagine a better place for the book fair. It really is just a beautiful building, and just the right place for an event of our size.
Years ago, one of the exhibitors, one of the book dealers, described the fair as a little book city.
It's true. It's remarkable. So within the hall are about 100 booths set up, and within each booth is a business. And that business could be coming to you from New England, as Richard will be hailing from Virginia, from all over the South, the Midwest, as far west as California. And each one of those booksellers brings a collection of books and really fills that booth as part of a micro shop, really. So each one is incredibly different, and you'll be speaking to 100 different dealers from 100 different places who specialize in 100 different things.
And knowledgeable dealers.
Incredibly knowledgeable.
One of the things that has always struck me is that it's sort of suggestive of Brigadoon. The Brigadoon, the mythical Scottish city that would disappear and then would come back for a brief period of time. And this is a brigadoon of books, I think.
That's an amazing analogy. It's almost a magical experience for me as the manager to watch what is a massive, empty, echoing hall into the hub of activity that it is during that weekend, and then to watch it all clear out again as though it never was there.
I had the opportunity a few years ago to do a time lapse, and maybe we'll dig that out and show it. But the time lapse shows the construction of the little book city within a very few minutes. You suddenly see this whole array of little bookshops all over the place. Hi, Guinevere.
Guinevere has awakened and is greeting you all. We're so glad that you're here with us while we talk about the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair.
So Sarah, as we close, the theme, of course, hi baby. The theme, of course, is the children's hour, and how appropriate that we have beautiful Guinevere here. Hi, Guinevere. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. So, as we close, what you alluded to it before, but I know that there are more than just the mysteries that were read to you as a child. Tell us what books you remember as a child that were some of your favorites.
Well, like so many other young Americans, my father also read to me the Little House on the Prairie series, so that's another favorite. Little Women, of course, and Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, Anne of Green Gables. These were all of my childhood companions, in addition to Nancy Drew and her intelligent sleuthing skills. I think they really taught me a lot about life, and I'm so glad to be able to pass those treasures along to my children. It's been such a blessing to be able to read to them the same books that I enjoyed as a child, and they've been enjoyed for generations for a reason. They're just wonderful stories.
Sarah, thank you so much for spending this time with us on the Rare Book Cafe, and we look forward to seeing the book fair in April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
That's right.
Of 2022.
I'm looking forward so much to seeing you all in person, and we're just so thankful for the chance to see our favorite people and enjoy our favorite things together.
Bye-bye, baby. Bye-bye, baby. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sarah. We're all looking forward to seeing you. It won't be too long now. And now our regular segment on things found in old books. David Hess from the Bookman in Orange, California, is going to show us what he's found this week. And one thing he's found this week is a menu from Longchamp's restaurant in New York. And it was a very popular restaurant. I think they opened back in about 1919, 1920. And through the 30s and 20s and 30s and 40s, was very popular. French style cooking at affordable prices was how they were advertised. And so David, we'll turn it over to you now.
Hello, this is David from the Bookman in Orange, California. Wishing you a hearty hello and welcoming you to another episode of Things Found in Old Books. Today we start off with this volume out of a set of Robert Louis Stevenson, and I was pricing the set, going to put it up on the shelf, and I came across, well, first of all, on the inside it says Raymond Bissell, Buffalo, New York, 99, which would be 1899. And inside was this small piece of paper, and it fell apart over time, but it fits together like this. And what it is, it's a school report on Abraham Lincoln, written by Helen Bissell. So it was dated February 10th, 1924. And it's on Abraham Lincoln. And it starts off, Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin. And it goes from there. And it's like a page and a little tiny bit on the back. And it's cute. And so I'm guessing she must have been about 8 or 9 years old. And the teacher has written on the side here, she wrote, good. So it was good. And I thought it was really, really cute. I thought it was also interesting in 1924 that Lincoln's assassination was like 59, 60 years earlier. But this letter or this report is now 97 years later. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Anywho, on to the next thing. We found in this book called The First Battle by W.J. Bryan, William J. Bryan, a story of the campaign of 1896. And it's dated 1908, 1996, 1896. I'm sorry, 1896. Politicians always love to talk about themselves. Where did, oh yeah, right here. Inside is this Louisiana Light, Power, and Traction Company. It is a light bill, or a power bill, I should say, from 1909, November 30th, 1909, the Louisiana Light and Power. And what they have here is the index to the gas meter, and it shows how much gas they use and how much they consumed, and it was going to cost them $2.63 that month for their gas. The interesting thing I also thought was it also has a place for your electric meter, your kilowatts used, arc lights, number of fans, and so forth. But there was none registered. They were not using electricity. They just had the gas going. So that was 1909, and it's signed by somebody when they paid their bill. Mrs. Burkhead. Mrs. Burkhead, November 30th, 1909. She paid her bill. The gas is still on. And finally, from the archives of my books, of things I found in books, I found this a while back, and the book is long since gone. And it is folded up like this. And what it is a restaurant, Longchamp's restaurant in New York City. And it was a pretty popular restaurant. I looked it up a little bit, and it was opened in 1919 and finally sputtered to an end in 1975. I mean, there's no date on the menu. They were known for their Art Deco style. They had Art Deco walls and decoration in the restaurant. And but I can only guess by the prices. For clam chowder is like 35 cents. A vintage champagne cocktail is $1.28. Lobster, $1.65. You got some fresh calf's liver for $1.15. And they have a little thing they posted in, I guess, for that today's special right there. Chicken chow mein, $1.35. And there is no compromise with quality at Longchamp's. That's what they say. And over here, you got another little special put in here, deviled stuffed fresh lobster, $1 and a dime. So my guess is that this menu is probably from the late 30s, maybe early 40s. And Longchamp's was a pretty big deal. They had locations all through New York. And it was quite renowned at the time. And I think a tourist might have gone there, got the menu, and folded it up and put it in a rather large book that they have, and that's where it stayed. And that's all I have for today. And I want to thank you for joining me. If you have something yourself that you would like to share, please contact me. You just email me at oldbook@ebookman.com. It's oldbook, no S, at ebookman.com. Send a little description of what you found and where you found it, and a picture. A couple pictures would be nice, and send them along, and I'll be glad to share them on this show. And I look forward to hearing from you. I really do. I mean, I really love those things that get sent in. So this is David Hess again, saying thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, David. And to add a little to what you have told us about that menu, we got a little bit more information about the restaurant. It was named for a famous racetrack in Paris, and the founder, Henry Lustig, owned racehorses and also had a wholesale fruit and produce business. At the height of its popularity, there were a dozen of the restaurants in the New York area, and it was very popular all through the 30s and into the 40s. But in the late 40s, the IRS presented Lustig with a bill for back taxes of millions of dollars. It seems that he had been siphoning money off from the company for some years, and he was sentenced to 4 years in prison and fined over $100,000, which I was assuming 1946 was the right fair amount. His accountant went to prison, and two brothers who were employees of his pleaded guilty and testified against Lustig. So they escaped with, I guess, without a prison sentence. But the restaurants lasted into the 50s. Many were changed, were bought by other companies, were changed into just steakhouses. And finally, the company went bankrupt in 1975. So that's a little bit of the story behind the story from David's menu. So, we've been featuring, well, let's see, anything else you need to tell us about today, Richard?
Well, I did have a couple things that actually fall into the collector's market. I show you if the lighting isn't good, we didn't test this. This is a puzzle, and it is a puzzle of the story of Cinderella. They're very large, as you can see. This is a big sheet, just to give you an idea of size, and it's in color. There's actually one more frame of it on the back of the puzzle. That's kind of, but beautiful litho colored. And it's actually a simple puzzle, and because it's all straight lines, there's no, it's not a jigsaw. But this is an example, and I don't have a date on it specifically, but I would certainly say turn of the century. It was commonly done before jigsaw puzzles this way, and just is a wonderful piece. My biggest problem in the past has been displaying it. I think I finally found a way to at least get it up and shown. And another thing I have, these are all large pieces today, and none of them are books, but I think this was actually one of the more interesting finds I recently got. I don't know if you can see this well. It's called Game of Human Life, and actually it's called The New Game of Human Life. It was originally published, I want to say, in the 1780s or 90s, and I had the date on it here someplace. I'm not seeing it, but in fact, this is a framed replication of the original game, and it literally, as you play the game, you get to experience the ups and downs of London life. It's considered one of the older games that was published. And here I have a wonderful map. This is a 17. I have the information here someplace. I think this is a 1740s reproduction of the original, which was done in the 1600s. This happens to be the North America one, and it does have a name. I had a paper. It's called the America, and it's in Latin. I can't pronounce it. I don't know what it says. I've got to go back and learn my Latin again. And then here's the South American. So it, it is an original from the 1740s or so, or 60s, 1760. But it's a lot less expensive than the 1641.
Well,
So
yeah, I would
those are
imagine.
a lot less. But in fact, there's an example of the kinds of things that can be found. And I'm not a map dealer per se, but I certainly know enough to pick up anything that's published before the 1800s.
Right.
And those are certainly this beautifully hand colored. You can't. They're wonderfully framed up. I just have them mounted on cardboard at the moment, on paper stock. But that'll be a beautifully framed piece when somebody buys those and puts them in their home.
Right, they will be. I have some nice wildflower prints from the 1890s that that I have matted, and that I'm probably going to be taking to the antique show just because they're nice.
Oh yeah,
people look for that kind of thing, and and they've done well at antique shows in the past. I've done some in Chattanooga and Asheville. Though not recently, but it was like you in the St. Petersburg. You felt like you were the only one there, that had what you had, and it would have been nice to have a little company in the book field. But I also found at a couple of antique shows that there were antique dealers there who had books in the trunks of their car that they didn't think were worth taking in, but they sure were worth our going out and looking at them. And we got some really neat stuff out of the trunks of cars of people at antique shows that way. Yeah. So you don't ever know. You don't ever know what's going to turn up. You really don't. That's one of the joys of this business, I think. So it's been good, of course, to have you back today. And
well, thank you.
You should feel like you're now a co-host on Rare Book Cafe.
I know. It dawned on me today. Ed's been gone so long. I'm forgetting even what he looks like. I may. This.
Yeah, he didn't send us a post this week, but so just to remind people of what's going on with Ed, our co-host Ed Markowitz is on an extended 6 or 7 week vacation, and we don't know his itinerary. We know that he intends to visit World Heritage sites in Greece and Italy and in the Balkans. And we have heard from him in Athens and at Hadrian's Library, and then at the archaeological site of Delphi and at Mycenae. But this week we don't have a post, so we're not sure where he is. But Alan did some research, and he said there's probably a dozen more places in Greece alone that he should visit, including the monastery of St. John the Theologian and the Cave of the Apocalypse on the islands of Patmos and the archaeological site of Philippi. So Ed could be very busy. And then in Italy, there are probably 50 sites to choose from. We hope he does not fall into Vesuvius while he's there, but in the Balkans, there are many medieval sites that he could go to. And I guess if he winds up in Transylvania, we might be a little concerned about him come Halloween, but we'll see. But we know it'll be interesting, and we're looking forward to his next installments.
We'll have to have a contest next week. Where in the world is Ed?
Where is Ed Markowitz? He's calling it Travels with Ed, which he kind of based on Steinbeck's Travels with Charlie. Of course, Charlie was a poodle, and we aren't real sure, why he's chosen this, but we haven't seen any dogs with him, though there were a lot of feral cats in Athens. But we'll look forward to seeing him again. And I think that's all we've got for today. But
it's been good to be here.
It has been good to be here. This has been the Richard and Lee show today. And but I think next week we're looking forward to having Gigi Best back with us again next week. And we're hoping we'll have Ed back with us too. So that will be good. Right. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye for now.
Have a good one.
Yes.
And buy more books.
Buy more books. That's right.